Good evening and welcome. This is the Primetime News on Mitv. I'm Tomisi Adebukola. Looking at our top stories tonight, the United States is to return $23 million Abacha loot to Nigeria. And Buhari vows to resist any attempt to undermine sports development in the country. In foreign news, Ukraine ridicules Russia murder accusation. And Palmieri joins West Ham from Chelsea. That's it in sports. And now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has declared that football remains the #1 sport in Nigeria and a national asset. Therefore, his administration will resist any attempt to undermine its development. The president made the pledge while receiving the 10-year-old football development master plan submitted by the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare. The president also used the occasion to spell out his expectations from the 2-volume report which he directed the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development and the Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, to commence in its implementation in phases within the fine lines of the relevant sections of the Nigerian law on sports development and the statutes of the World Soccer governing body, FIFA. Reviewing the state of the round letter game in the country, President Buhari expressed concern that in the past years, football development has gradually stunted due to the neglect of core orientation of the football administration. Sports Minister Sunday Dare announced that the Buhari administration has so far disbursed 15 billion naira to NFF through budgetary allocations, appropriations and presidential interventions in the last 7 years. Commending the president for the attention to football development and laying a solid foundation for the growth of the game, the minister described the 10-year master plan, which took Ibrahim Galadima-led 60-member committee 6 months to prepare, as a world-class document.
I am equally happy that the Nigerian Football 10-year Master Plan 2022 to 2032 identified 15 key areas of challenge and provided practical recommendations to address these fundamental problems that have bedeviled football development in the country. The implementation of the short-term and medium-term plans should commence. I believe this will signal a positive turning point for our football and a major step forward in our bid to create a conducive environment for its sustainability, viability, and probability. The Nigeria Football Federation, the body charged.
The mandate you gave us, Mr. President, underscores the importance you attach to football and the need to lay a solid foundation once and for all that will be a legacy for the growth of this game. Mr. President, in nearly 7.5 years under your watch, we want to thank you because of the support you have given Nigerian Football Federation. The Federation has received both through budgetary appropriations and several presidential intervention funds in the last 7.5 years in excess of 15 billion naira, which is indeed a princely sum. This shows your commitment to football development. The federal government, we know, is also poised to meet other outstanding verified obligations. Therefore, this morning, in line with your directive, Mr. President, the 16-man committee made up of some of the best brains in our football, very experienced technocrats and stakeholders, are here to produce a document that will guide the administration of football, its management, and its development in Nigeria.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, said collaboration between the federal government and the private sector will not only ensure effective coordination of infrastructural development across the country, all sectors of the economy, he said, will also bridge the nation's infrastructure gap. Professor Osinbajo formally inaugurated a council during a virtual meeting, which he presided over today, stated that for efficient and effective implementation of infrastructural projects, the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan recommended the establishment of the National Council on Infrastructure and its technical working group. The Vice President further stated that the Buhari administration's master plan was developed to provide an integrated view of infrastructural development in Nigeria with clear linkages across key sectors and identifies enablers for successful implementation in line with the current economic realities. Speaking further, the Vice President said the success of the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan will depend to a large extent on the establishment of a strong implementation mechanism and a framework that promotes performance and accountability. Specifically, Oshibajo said the National Council on Infrastructure is to provide policy direction on infrastructural matters and drive the creation and sustenance of expected synergy and linkages between the public and the private sector to enhance the implementation of the structured master plan, while the technical working group is to provide guidance to the Council and advice on infrastructure-related matters. Nigeria and the United States government have reached an agreement on the return of about $23 million loot from Abacha. Now, the agreement signing ceremony was held in the office of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, on Tuesday. While Malami signed on behalf of the Nigerian government, the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, signed on behalf of the U.S. government. According to Malami, the fund, when returned, will be invested in 3 ongoing sectors by the federal government, including that ongoing Abuja-Kaduna Road and the second Niger Bridge. Nigeria has in the past recovered several other tranches of Abacha loot, which are proceeds believed to have been diverted from the public coffers by the military administration of General Sani Abacha in the 1990s. In 2020, the U.S. and Jersey also agreed to return over $308 million in confiscated funds to Nigeria. In 2006, about $723 million in Abacha loot was returned to Nigeria from Switzerland. And the federal government has inaugurated an ex-parte quota administration task force to drive innovations and development in the country. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aragbashola, while inaugurating the force in Abuja, stated that the ex-parte quota will be issued to foreign and Nigerian firms to enable them bring in high-level skilled manpower that is not readily available in the country to foster healthy interactions. He explained that the panel was first inaugurated on the 1st of December 2020, but could not take off due to some developments geared towards expanding the membership of the task force and its relaunch. Aragbashola further stated that the team is expected to act fast on areas that will safeguard the country's economy and reshape its development. He, however, noted that the abuse and gross violations must be avoided to achieve successful implementation of the policy.
The power vested on me by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I confer on you the authority to carry on the duty of ensuring that our particular administration has integrity. We are relaunching the task force with the following clear terms of reference. Audit all documentary requirements submitted by expatriate quota and business permit applicants for approval, renewal from May 29, 2019 to date. We are in 2022. We are not asking you to start the audit 2022. We are asking you to commence your audit of all expatriate quota applications, approval and rejection since the beginning of the second term of President.
The House of Representatives Committee on Finance has discovered $33 million contradiction in the figure released by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, as power generated by Azura Power Generation Company. Chairman of the committee, Honorable James Falike, investigating alleged breaches of the agreement in the power sector and perennial power failure in Nigeria, discharged the TCN for inability to detail the committee with satisfactory responses. House of Representatives correspondent Linda Ike reports that Azura signed a $33 million take-or-pay contract with the NBAT for the power generation of 450 megawatts to the national grid, but records TCN show a far cry from that figure. The marketing operator TCN, Edmond J, who represents the company, could not justify the $33 million paid by the government for the megawatts of power generated by Azura to the TCN between 2015 to 2022. The lawmakers also demanded further clarifications on total supply of energy demand and consumption by Nigerians.
Not only Azura, by directing companies. That's why you are here before us. Everybody was here on Friday, and they will still be here tomorrow or so. So it's not closed. We're only asking you from your own function as an evacuator of power, what power you have been evacuating from a 450 power generation company. We have not gone into other power generation companies. We've not gone to transport, we've not gone to like what you said, all the rest, so we just need just one. And you know why we are concerned, sir? We are concerned that Nigerians are willing to be to set up industries. They are willing to set up industries. I'm sure you have children who are graduates without job. I'm sure you have, or you have put them in TCS. So they are willing to set up industry, but there's no power. And there's no power, but yet we are paying huge sum of money. This is just the issue, nothing more. Not witch hunting, nothing.
What we have given to you here are the figures TCN has evacuated right from the inception in December 2017. That's when they commenced the operation.
So in other words, you cannot tell me this 1,755,900. You cannot tell me how many megawatts. You don't know.
I know, Chairman, 1,755.9 megawatts. That is what it is. It is not any other.
When you sign an agreement with 450 megawatts.
Yes.
But there is an average consumption demand of the people who use Azura's services. What is that average consumption demand?
The market operator is the man that administers the fund that is being generated in the whole power sector. So he decides what goes to TCN, he decides what goes to all the generating companies. So they are more or less independent. That is why that is what that independence denies. So that is where they derive their name from. So
the head of Guinea-Bissau delegation to ECOWAS Parliament, Honorable Khalifa Saidi, has disclosed that half the population of ECOWAS region is living in poverty. Saidi stated this on Tuesday at the localized meeting of the ECOWAS Parliament Joint Committee on Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources, Infrastructure, Energies, Mines, Industry and the private sector in Bissau, the capital of Guinea-Bissau. He said the poverty is a result of food insecurity occasioned by climate change. Our correspondent Linda Iga reports that Saidi charged all to endeavor to make agriculture more sustainable, urging the committee to focus on profound and lasting solutions that will reduce hunger and poverty in member states. In his remark, the co-chair of the Joint Committee, Honorable Samson Ahi, called for the active participation of parliamentarians to enable them tackle security, health, economic and climate crisis, which are the major challenges faced by the sub-region.
An indispensable leverage for the development of our region. Today, more than anything else, the lessons we ought to learn in the sense that there is the need to have greater balance in preserving our ecosystem, but also in developing our countries, coming up with projects in the agroecological field, and these ought to be taken in the face of climatic challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, on the high table, dear MPs, the individual and collective existence depends on our resilience as a community, in which there is the political structure to try to come up with proposals to develop a.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, along with electoral stakeholders, have advocated for the establishment of a National Electoral Offences Commission to enable investigation and prosecution of electoral offences in the country. This submission was declared on Tuesday at a one-day public hearing on the National Electoral Offences Commission Establishment Bill 2022, organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters and held in the National Assembly complex. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said the reform of the nation's electoral process cannot be complete without an effective sanction on violators of the law. He stressed that electoral umpires' incapacity to arrest offenders or conduct investigation prompted the suggestion that a commission be established to aid successful prosecution of high-profile offenders, as well as to extend some responsibility to other agencies, as recommended by the Ways and Namani committees. House of Representatives correspondent Linda Ike reports that the INEC chairman added the Electoral Offences Tribunal should be established with exclusive jurisdiction to try electoral offenders, unlike the provisions of Section 33, subsection 1 of the bill, which confers jurisdiction on federal, state and federal FCT high courts, which are already overburdened. The chairman Inter-Party Advisory Council, Yabag Sani Aipak, who was present at the event, also said the proposed Electoral Offences Commission, our political parties believe, will bring credible, fair and free and more inclusive elections.
The bill for an act to establish the National Electoral Offences Commission is a critical legislation. It has been part of all national conversations on constitutional and electoral reforms in the last 13 years. The Justice Mohammed Uwais Committee on Electoral Reforms recommended it in 2009, echoed by the Sheikh Ahmed Lemu Committee following the post-election violence in 2011, and most recently by the Ken Namani Committee on Constitutional and Electoral Reform in 2017. Similar recommendations are contained in reports of police investigations, INEC administrative inquiries, court judgments, reports by the National Human Rights Commission, as well as several accredited election observers.
I want to assure Nigerians that this bill, when it becomes law, will empower the Commission to investigate electoral offences, prosecute electoral offenders, and maintain records of all persons investigated and prosecuted, with the expected impetus that the law will add to the effort to streamline the democratic procedures and the activities leading to the 2023 polls reaching a crescendo. It is important to note that the passage of this important legislation, without doubt, has the tendency to change the narrative of election in the country. The of the Electoral Act also have already given prosecutorial power to
a review of the past elections indicate that the need for the National Assembly to take the necessary legislative steps to address, identify challenges and plug the loopholes and encountered with the conduct of elections in this country. I know that some of the challenges may require constitutional amendments, and we are working with the House Committee on Constitutional Amendment to constitutional review to make the necessary alterations to the Constitution that will fix the legal problems. As a step in the process, this public hearing should bring forth new ideas on how to establish the National Offences Commission, Election Offences Commission, and extension.
The Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, has advocated improved collaboration between the agency and the players in the Nigerian manufacturing sector so as to redefine the process of production of goods to meet the acceptable standard. SON says only when the manufacturers play according to the set standard and support the fight against substandard goods will the Nigerian goods compete favorably at the international market and stand the test of time. The Director General Malam Farouk Salim disclosed this on Tuesday in Lagos while speaking on the theme enhancing manufacturing productivity through standards. Explains that the agency will continue to ensure local manufacturers are protected against the importation of fake and substandard goods. On his part, the national president of MAN, Engineer Mansour Ahmed, assured the manufacturers will continuously collaborate with SON and ensure that any of the members that err to sustain the set standard is brought to book. Engineer Ahmed implored the local infant industries to adhere strictly to standards so as to give their products a face in the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, AFCFTA.
Without standards, you don't even know as a customer what you're buying. And then if you complain, you have to use standards to complain against it. So the judge cannot use anything to give you judgment if standards are not used. And if standards are not used in a facility, the factory will not be efficient, and they will not be efficient, and they will not be able to keep going, because in a business like a factory or industry, efficiency ensures the continuity of the industry. If any industry that is not efficient will eventually collapse, and you cannot be efficient without standards.
We are on the ground, so we know who is manufacturing what kind of product. We know who is importing or bringing fake and substandard products, and we work together with them to ensure that they have the information and they can take the appropriate action that would be necessary to keep these fake products out of our economy, out of our markets, because that will be necessary to give our manufacturers, our members, the ability to exploit the market fully, and particularly in this regard, to be able to export products on a competitive basis.
Standardization no doubt improves clarity, guarantees quality, promotes productivity, boosts employee morale, positively projects the image of the organization, while at the same time improves customer service.
We'll now take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you stories from the foreign scene. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching MITV Primetime News, and now going to the foreign scene. We begin with Ukraine, where officials have ridiculed Russia's accusation that its special services were behind the killing of Daya Dugina, the daughter of an ultra-nationalist, in a car bomb attack. National Security and Defense Council Secretary Oleksiy Danilov said don't work in such manner. A memorial service for Dugina, 29-year-old, took place in Moscow on Tuesday. Dugina, a commentator on Russian nationalist television channel, died when a car was blown up on the outskirts of Moscow. Our influential father, Alexander Dugin, may have been the intended target of the attack. His territory are to have influenced Vladimir Putin's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Malaysia, the former Prime Minister Najib Razak has been sent to jail to begin a 7 or 12-year sentence after the top court rejected his appeal. The 69-year-old charges relate to a corruption scandal involving state-owned wealth fund One Malaysia Development Berhad, One MBD. He was convicted in July 2020 but had been cut out on bail during the appeal. The court also denied to delay his sentence while it said he had done nothing wrong. In 2020, a court had found him guilty on 7 counts centered on a total of 42 million ringgit, about $9.4 million, 8.8 million pounds, which was transferred from the SRC International, a former unit of the 1MDB, into his private account. He was sentenced to 12 years jail and a fine of 210 million ringgit, that's about $46.8 million. A journalist was shot dead in southern Mexico, authorities said shortly after posting online about the disappearance 8 years ago of 43 students from a nearby area. Freddie Drummond, who published his work on various social media pages and contributed to his local newspaper, was found dead in his car in the city of Chilpancingo, capital of Guerrero State. The case of the 43 students from Guerrero who went missing in 2014 after commandeering a bus to head to a protest is considered one of the worst human rights disasters in Mexican history. The case was forced back into the news in the last couple of days when a Truth Commission branded an atrocity a state crime that involved agents of various institutions. A few hours before his death, Roman published a long Facebook post titled State Crime without charging the boss, in which he mentioned an alleged meeting between the 4 officials at the time of the students' disappearance, including former Attorney General Jesus Murillo Caram. And still to come on the news tonight, we'll bring you sports after this break. Welcome. In sports stories, West Ham have signed left-back Emerson Palmieri from Chelsea in a deal understood to be worth £15 million. The 28-year-old Italy international has joined the Hammers on a 4-year contract with a 1-year option for £30 million plus £2 million in add-ons. Palmieri spent last season on loan at Lyon and has struggled to become a regular at Stamford Bridge since his 2018 move from Roma. The Euro 2020 winner is West Ham's 7th signing of the summer. David Moyes' side are currently bottom of the Premier League with no points from 3 matches. The Hammers' biggest signings have been Garcia, Gianluca Scamacca from Sassuolo for £30 million, defender Nayef Agard from Rennes for £30 million, and forward Maxwell Canet from Burnley for £17.5 million. Leicester City have rejected a 3rd bid from Chelsea for Wesley Fofana, believed to be between £60 million and £70 million. It is understood the offer for the 21-year-old centre-back includes hard-on clauses, some of which are considered by Leicester to be unrealistic. But the Foxes, who are yet to win this season, have maintained their stance that the Frenchman is not for sale, and it could take a world record fee for a defender more than £80 million for City to consider Chelsea's advances. And that's it on the news tonight. A quick recap as we call it a wrap. Buhari vows to resist any attempt to undermine sports development in Nigeria, as the U.S. is to return $23 million Abacha loot. And going to the foreign scene, Ukraine has ridiculed Russia's murder accusation of journalist 29-year-old. And Palmieri joins West Ham United from Chelsea. That's it on the news tonight. Thanks for joining us. Do visit any of our social media handles to keep in touch with all of our programs on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MITV_NG, and of course on YouTube, MITV Nigeria. I am Tomi Singh Adibukola. Have a pleasant night, first. Good night.